Good evening, afternoon, night, morning, whenever you find a way to watch this. This podcast is me, Omar Shanti Borhat, the Burger Popper, joining you for another podcast in the off season. And the off season slowly churning along. By the time this is out, I mean we'll almost be at Memorial Day, a few days before Memorial Day. So I mean the college football season's coming. We're gonna have broadcast announcements at the end of the month. I think in a week and a half from now, but slowly but surely we're getting there. But we're still covering some off-season topics, just general buzz, because I think as I mentioned in other podcasts that the FCS, FBS news cycle and off-season pretty boring. But I am joined by a special guest, someone who stepped to the plate, was willing to help me talk about NIU and some buzz that happened, not with the Mountain West and the Pac-12, of course. I mean, which it's great to have a break from that. We're not talking about that with NIU, but just some sort of neutral site news from 2027 for 2027 that kind of happened or kind of bled out, I guess, a little bit a few weeks ago in late April. But joining me is Eddie. I didn't ask. I should ask your last name and or last name or like whatever you do. But I have Eddie, who is a season ticket holder and a pretty I guess vocal figure on social media in the NIU football community and also men's basketball community.
Yeah, no, thank you, Omar, for having me. So yeah, my name is Eddie. Last name Anguiano, if that might be a mouthful, but I usually go by Eddie A. That's usually what everybody knows me by, or AG on social media. But yeah, I'm super excited. I appreciate you reaching out and always down to talk about NIU everything. Obviously, I'm more towards like a bigger fan of football and men's basketball. But yeah, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, let you know kind of from the alumni fan side, kind of what I think personally of what's been going on. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for you to be on here and offer any expertise in general, expertise, experience, testimonies, anything in general when it comes to NIU and this topic. So, just getting straight into it. So a few weeks ago, I want to say it was late April as well. We had Northern Illinois, we had Nebraska actually. Nebraska had a press event sort of announcing their plans for the renovation from Memorial Stadium. Memorial Stadium. That's gonna happen next year. And so with that, the capacity is gonna be reduced, and naturally it makes sense in situations like that for someone to buy a home game, an outside promoter, or sell off a home game. So Nebraska looks like they're doing that, and they pointed to the Northern Illinois game, the home opener next year for the Cornhuskers, as the game for that. And so Eddie, I just wanted to ask, I guess, what are your initial thoughts? What are the vibes from the fan base about playing this game? Do they want to get there, not really get back, but they want to relive the memories of that 2017 game at Memorial Stadium, or are they welcoming the experience just playing in a new NFL stadium?
Yeah, so I say funny enough, you mentioned the 2017 game. I actually watched it with my college roommate at the time, and I remember that pick six that led to obviously that touchdown. Um, Really good game. I will say, I think in general, what I've been seeing on social media, since it's still up in the air, I don't think people are very much like celebrating it just yet. The stuff that I was able to find on Reddit, obviously, we kind of already have a history with Nebraska playing them. Was it last year or the year before that? So we've kind of already kind of buddy buddy with them already. Doing this, I'd say in the new Chiefs Stadium would I would argue kind of put us in a different kind of space just because of the attention that it brings. It would be exciting. I do appreciate our AD when it comes to non-conference scheduling, always trying to put us with power, conference programs and things like that. Because I think being a Group of Five school, you kind of have to do these games to really put your name out there. So I think since it's still up in the air, hopefully it gets solidified and everything actually happens, which it kind of sounds like it will. But I think once we get that kind of green light of like, this is when it's going to be, this is the scheduling for it. I would imagine a bunch of NIU alumni fans are definitely going to be buying tickets and going out there to kind of see the new stadium itself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't blame them, honestly, really. And I guess you mentioned the new Arrowhead Stadium. I didn't really catch like the timeline, like researching that. Like I thought that was kind of like a slow process. Is it going to be ready in
Oh,
2027?
Correct. Probably not. I might have misspoke there, but it might be either at the original Arrowhead or it might be. I want to say on Reddit. At least what I was saying, unless I misunderstood, but it's probably either unless they can build it over with the span of a year. But regardless, I think either it's at the new stadium or in the current existing one. I think in general, just to be in an NFL stadium would be awesome. And I think NIU has done that realistically a couple of times. They did it here in Chicago with Iowa and things like that. So I think we're very familiar with kind of doing these bigger games with bigger teams. But yeah, regardless whether it's new or current one, I think it would be awesome for sure.
Yeah, I guess a question I had like with that follow up is when I was doing research for like a written piece about I vouch for Northern Iowa, I guess, also to be a better
Yeah.
candidate geographically for playing Nebraska in Arrowhead. Is there a general kind of fatigue playing in NFL stadiums? I know that Northern Illinois had like that run of like so many consecutive appearances in the MAC championship game at Ford Field. You mentioned the Soldier Field games, or is there kind of that still that fascination with it being just a different NFL stadium that NIU's played in?
I think the fact that we're there is exciting. I think obviously being a smaller school, we would want more. For example, like with the Iowa game, right? Like even at Ford Field, like majority of these games don't get super packed. At least not with NIU fans, just because we're a smaller, amount of fans or whatever the case may be. But I think that excitement's always there when we're able to play versus bigger schools, even if it's in stadiums where say majority of the fan base is going to be in this case like Nebraska, right? I don't think that really bothers us. We kind of appreciate being kind of the underdog, and I think that's kind of what NIU's brand is kind of built on, of like we're going to be this smaller school. We're always going to have kind of this odds stacked against us, but that's just kind of what we kind of part of what we enjoy, I think, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that that reputation followed NIU into the Mountain West and kind of what helped them get the football only membership into the Mountain West. It looks like a conference of honestly giant killers, with North Dakota State joining as well. So that reputation is definitely follows them, and I think like it adds like another element like with it to this Nebraska game. If it's at NFL Stadium, if it's kind of reliving that Nebraska upset of 2017, that kind of added to just a long line of Power 4, Power 5 wins for NIU. I wanted to ask, as a for you being a season ticket holder, I just noticed that in doing research for this, like last week or so, that NIU had put out road tickets for Arizona and shoot, I think it was Iowa, but and they do
Mhm.
that based on a on a priority status. Typically, like, does the caliber of opponent or does the location of a game per se, for like this example in 2027, does that typically drive up season ticket sales, or is it kind of something that's just like the fan base is apathetic to? It's just like a nice bonus.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, I think for me personally, for example, if I was on the fence, right, as a fan buying season tickets, if they're playing bigger schools, I think I would be more willing to be like, I get to experience going to a new state, right, a bigger stadium or whatever the case may be. So I think it brings excitement, and I think it would encourage people to want to kind of be season ticket holders if it means they get access to kind of more road tickets or whatever the case may be. Um, I would say it doesn't get old to us. I think a lot of the fans very much we kind of yearn for that more. We kind of want bigger and bigger schools. I know on Twitter there's always this debate or X of like we want bigger schools to come to Husky Stadium, right? But then there's kind of the it's not big stadium, whatever it needs renovations. But I think for us, it doesn't get old. I think the more bigger schools we can play, like the Notre Dame game, the better it is for us. And I like to think that we travel pretty well for us being, kind of like a regional university. A lot of people, I would say they kind of are a little surprised of how much support people get. And then to be fair, our alumni base, based on kind of the polling that I've seen, we're kind of all over the place. I would say a lot of people on the West Coast for sure, obviously the Midwest, but so I think a lot of fans and very much are encouraged to want to maybe become season ticket holders if they know that they could go potentially experience these bigger games at bigger stadiums.
Okay, I always wondered that because I know that like I guess as an Army fan, right? The big one is Army Navy, right? If like you're
Yeah.
a ticket holder, you're in the order like in a pretty considerable like in a pretty considerable, like pretty beneficial order for Army Navy game tickets. So I know that that's a huge like benefit and a huge draw for people being season ticket holders. So I kind of wondered too if like even this year like with the Arizona game, that's a rare trip that NIU probably won't take for a while. Um, Tucson is a great city to be in. Honestly, been there a couple times, and it's just like kind of like a random just like travel experience that makes like college football non-conference great. So I just had to ask that question.
Yeah, no, I think, for example, and I think for me, I rather with being now in the Mountain West, I plan to go to like the UNLV game. I kind of base it more around the stadiums themselves, kind of when I choose to travel for, to watch away games. But I think, yeah, like going to Arizona, right, to experience that game. Um, I think a lot of people too, a lot of people that I've seen that do travel are a little bit older, kind of than the younger alumni. So for them, it's like a kind of getting out of the Midwest, type of vibe and kind of experiencing a little bit more, which I think joining the Mountain West has allowed us to kind of spread out a little bit. Obviously, unfortunately, Hawaii's coming to us this year, but I do plan next year to go. If, the scheduling kind of works out. But yeah, for example, for me, going to Vegas, this fall is ideal, and I think kind of even the non-conference games, the fact that we can go to these places, I think it's awesome. Why wouldn't we want to be in these bigger stadiums with other fans and whatnot?
Yeah, I think that's a good transition to the last question I had. So, of course, like with the Mountain West membership starting this year, and you're mentioning going to like Las Vegas as a fan, right? And then next year, which could be an obstacle for attendance for this Nebraska game at Arrowhead next year. Like next year, Hawaii, you guys travel to Hawaii. So, do you kind of see fans? I mean, of course, it hasn't started yet. Like, you guys haven't started playing the Mountain West.
Right.
Like, do you guys see fans having like travel fatigue by next year and having to pick and choose? Like, okay, like if I want to go to Hawaii next year, I can't go see NIU play at Arrowhead because I'm the same way too, where it's like I kind of pick the stadium more than the destination. And like
Right.
for me, if I was in your shoes, as an NIU fan, I'd be like, okay, you know, Hawaii's in our conference. I guess I can just wait another 2 years, even though it's a dangerous thing to do with conference realignment. Like but but yeah, like I can just like wait a couple years and go to Hawaii. Like I don't know when NIU's playing in Arrowhead again. So like, is there kind of like, do you kind of see like some sort of like travel fatigue like happening with the fan base, that might be an obstacle to this game?
Yeah, I think for me, to be fair, nothing against like Arrowhead Stadium, but like it's really nothing around. I think for me, if I had to select, right, going to Arrowhead over going to like Hawaii, like I'm going to Hawaii 10 times out of 10, like without a doubt. So I think to some extent people might be like, well, to be fair, it is obviously more expensive to travel to Hawaii than it would be to Arrowhead. So I kind of look at it like from the financial perspective, what kind of gives you the bigger bang for your buck? Because you can obviously drive to Arrowhead. You don't even have to take a flight there. Where like obviously Hawaii, you have to fly there. There's just no way to get there. Um, so I think it depends. I think for sure. At least for me, I kind of I'm going to base it on like what gives me the better experience. Not to say obviously kind of Arrowhead, they might be the first and last time they'll probably play there. But I'm sorry, I I'm gonna go to Hawaii every single time. So I think from the fan bases, I think it just depends, kind of obviously scheduling too. If it's something that, it's a drive for them here in the Midwest, not too bad of a drive to get to Arrowhead, like why not? But I do think, especially when you start getting into like the West Coast stadiums, schools, I think we might see of like which games are people are going to go to, which ones are not. Like for example, like I was considering going to the San Jose State over the Vegas game, right, for UNLV, but then I realized what's a better experience. I like to think UNLV is going to be a better experience. So I would say that's probably how I look at it from a fan perspective. But I know there's some people in the alumni base. I go, they actually make it more to away games that they do to some of the local games in DeKalb. But yeah, I mean, I think we could see that maybe at least as we get adjusted to kind of the road games and being in the Mountain West for the first year. I think there is going to be a bit of a kind of adjustment period that will happen, not just for the players, right, the team, but also the alumni of like, you know, kind of see how it goes traveling, right? Because the Mac was you can drive in a radius of however many miles, and you're basically at all the stadiums. Where here you basically have to fly to get to where you want to go, unless you're going to drive for like over 12 hours.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too about just like getting, more bang out of your buck, more out of the experience too, especially now with most of the games for the Mountain West just happening either, I mean, on Saturdays, and if not on Saturdays, like on a Friday, where it could essentially just be a weekend trip. You can do stuff that surrounds the game. And so with that, like you said, like with Hawaii, like you're gonna be able to do stuff because it won't be on a Tuesday night. Like, I mean, even though I guess being in Hawaii on a Tuesday night is just as good as being in Hawaii on a Saturday.
Yeah,
But like for the other experiences too, like like maybe like a San Jose State game, maybe like you said, or Fargo. Honestly,
Fargo. Yeah.
if that's your adventure, no, nothing against the great people of Fargo. I'm sure it's a
Right.
great place to live in, but yeah, like I think it's just a great point too, just about like the stuff surrounding the game too. But it'll be interesting to see really, because for me, as someone who recently went, as a fan who like recently went through a conference change with Army and the American, I kind of like think to myself like, okay, I have time with this current set of schools, like I can just like take my time and just pick and choose. And so like for me, like I have to like I also, when it comes to Army, like had to like weigh like what's more important for me. Like stadium was, I had to, because for example, like on Halloween, Army's playing Memphis, and like I was like, okay, I want to see Army play the original Conference USA schools. And then, but at the same time, like I love the Notre Dame Navy game, and they're playing it at Gillette. I'm trying to see it at like all the specific NFL stadiums that they play the game in. And I'm just like, I don't know when the next time they're gonna put it in Gillette is, because it's a rotating game. And so like, yeah, I think Memphis will still be there. And then I saw those Pac-12 buyout numbers, or media payout numbers, and I'm like, okay, maybe they won't be there. So, but but yeah, it's just interesting as a fan, like that it's just all kind of like a game of just like strategy and just kind of like, I mean, I guess value scoring. I hate to use
Yeah.
such a professional term, but value scoring as a fan, and I think that this is just an example of that.
Yeah, I would like to add, like, I think, and again, as much as we dominated the Mac for so long, but like I forgot where I saw this, but somebody said there's the problem with the Mac is that everything very much looks the same. Like if you go to, for example, Akron, right? If you go to Miami of Ohio, if you go to name which, Western Michigan, all of the Midwest, unfortunately, does look very much the same. So like, is there really a benefit if from a fan to go to, besides watching your school play, but is there really an experience that's going to happen if you go to Akron opposed to if you go to Miami of Ohio, right? Like probably not. Where I think with the Mountain West, although yeah, kind of these schools are more towards the West Coast, you do kind of get a sense of like I can make a weekend out of this, right? Now that the games are going to be Friday, Saturday, you know, um, it allows for a lot of kind of middle working class families to really consider being like, hey, I can make, like you said, a weekend trip out of this and go to, for example, go to Hawaii, right, on a couple day trip or whatever the case may be, or even going to like places like Vegas. I think for me that was kind of the intent of go there. Hopefully the game. I haven't checked the schedule exactly. I believe it's on a Saturday. Yeah, um, get there Friday, kind of midday, be there all day, rest of the day Friday, go to the game Saturday, and then have the rest of Saturday and then going into Sunday to kind of hang out and kind of experience Vegas, right? I think for me that is far more appealing than again taking a quick car drive over to the neighboring Western Michigan, right, school, and being like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the local what is it called, Culver's, and have a burger. Like that's not really like an experience that I really care for, right? I can just do that any given day. But now being in the Mountain West, I think this puts it's fun. It's going to be fun. I think a lot of the fans are excited because we do get to now do these things on the weekend that we otherwise wouldn't really be able to do. And which it's exciting for me as an alumni and as a season ticket holder. I'm thankful that this happened for sure.
I think it's just hilarious that you said that the Midwest is kind of like the same. Which I mean, I've never been to the Midwest for an extended period of time, so like I wouldn't know. But I mean, I kind of see that in like memes and in stereotypes, which I think it's great though. I definitely think that like you guys are setting like the mold for football only and Olympic sports splits, where it's like football is it's a weekend game. Honestly, like the experience is built around weekends, like whether it just be tailgating or just traveling to a road game. And so I think that's an outstanding point, just about how the fact that you're just able to explore like areas different than your own, really, which is something that I overlook too. Because like when I think about college football being a weekend game, I think like, yeah, you should be able to make your games, but they
Right.
should be like close and affordable. But like in a way, like there is also a charm to just being able to see areas different than your own, really, like, and explore the country like that, and just like really like making an experience of it, and just like take it in. So yeah, that's something I overlooked.
Yeah, I think a lot of, and obviously with conference realignment, like I think people that I started seeing people were like, you know, NIU doesn't have mountains. Why is NIU in the Mountain West, right? I think that whole kind of the region you're from really matters. I think that's kind of the old guard, kind of old school mentality. I think that's you look at these conferences now. You have teams that are joining the ACC that have nothing to do with kind of that region. And I look at NIU. I think you're right. I think we're kind of breaking the stereotype of that. And I think for NIU fans and like alumni, I think this is kind of the right move for us. I think people that say otherwise maybe are a little bit unaware of kind of how the school is positioned. Not just that, but I think the state of Illinois in general has had a lot of issues in the past. That there's been uncertainty with like funding and things like that, which I think this secures NIU not just from the athletic side, but I think both the athletic and the academic side. I don't think people are realizing how much of a kind of boost this is for the university, aside from the sports. But I think for us, like, I unfortunately it was before my time, but we made it to the Orange Bowl, right, and that kind of Jordan Lynch era, which I look at, if that was to ever happen in today's time, I think we're talking about bigger conferences and things like that than compared to the Mountain West, right? But for me, I think this is NIU, and again, praise to our AD. I think he says it best. You're either moving back or you're moving forward. You're never just standing still. And I think NIU needed to do this to ensure that we're always going to try to move forward regardless. Because for us, if we stop moving, that's where I think, for us, it's not good for the university and obviously for the football program for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a sentiment shared by a lot of athletic departments, where it's like there's so much turbulence that you have to be moving some direction. And so with this, it definitely is a step up, just like doing football only in the Mountain West, and just also being able to save a buck by going to the Horizon League for all other sports. So I'm excited for what this new era has in store for you guys, for sure. I'm excited for like the marquee opponents you guys will be able to face too. And yeah, and yeah, this game in Arrowhead next year just adds to it too, just like this interesting era. But Eddie, that covers everything that I had written down in my notes for this podcast. Do you have anything final to add or anything to promote before we sign off?
Uh, I guess just one thing I will say, like I encourage everybody that's watching, like a lot of people, if they're from the Midwest and they're looking for like an underdog school to support, kind of the blue collar, get your hands dirty, kind of wanting to kind of do things yourself, kind of the hard way, right? I think NIU is a school that we can use all the support that we could get. I think obviously a lot of people gravitate towards the Alabamas and the LSUs and whatnot, but I think NIU, if once you start looking at the history that the university has, the football program, there's so much there that I think a lot of people might be surprised. So if anybody is looking for a team to support, I feel free to kind of jump on the wagon. I think for us, we're always more than willing to bring on fans, even fans that aren't even from the Midwest. So for me, that would just kind of be my little plug, looking for some more NIU fans, even if they're not from the area, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys like definitely have a brand. I think like you said, the Orange Bowl, like just making a New Year's Bowl game, like in general, like that carries on. Like that brand just like carries on because people just remember that too.
Yeah,
And the upsets are another thing. The upsets, like it may not be App State, Michigan, but like beating Alabama and Maryland, well, more so Alabama, but like and Maryland, like in the same year, like back in like '03 or whenever it
yeah,
was. And then also too, like the Notre Dame game, like that's going to like carry on for that's going to carry on for ages. Like so, I mean, call it like Boise State of the Midwest, but like you guys like have like that name brand. So I'm excited for you guys too. Like I'm hope like I don't know where life's gonna take us like next year, but I'm hoping that like we're able to make that game in Arrowhead because I love like bowl type experiences in like NFL stadiums. So like that's like I'm trying to see as many like different college games in NFL stadiums. You know, just gradually. So I haven't seen one at Arrowhead, so that would be something I'd be thrilled to do. But yeah, I mean, and I think you guys can compete with Nebraska just again, just with how that program's fared.
yeah. I'm curious to see what the record's going to be. I don't know what the record is right now, dating back to you know the 17 game, but like yeah, I'm hoping that eventually we can make more games come to Chicago and here at Soldier Field as the Bears hopefully at one point move on to a bigger, better stadium. But yeah, I think hopefully that's the plan and it happens, and I'll definitely be at Arrowhead for sure. Just be aware if you happen to be there. Definitely be cool to get to meet you for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's just another reason to look forward to it. But thank you, Eddie. I really appreciate your time and just helping out, just bring your perspective to from a fan base that I just typically like don't interact with. Stay tuned for just more podcasts. Everyone watching and listening, I just really appreciate your patience in the off season. It's like there's just been ebbs and flows, honestly. It's just kind of been tough a little bit at times, just being a new dad. But it's not an excuse. There's a lot of college football writers and podcasters that are parents too. So, but thank you everyone again for listening, and peace on the soul, the Burger Popper.